Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I'm George. We're all George. So, happy Friday. Yes, I believe it's Friday. And the market bell just rung. There you go. I just made it. So today, let's talk about several things. We got some economic data in the U.S. Okay, so there's that. Also, what is going on with Tether? Right? Coinbase is urging customers to ditch Tether. What is that about? So let's talk about that as well. And let's talk about other stuff. Actually, more infighting and CZ really ranting on Twitter. We got PPI number. It showed that prices went up a little bit more than expected, 0.3% rather than 0.2%. And that freaked people out because, again, people are afraid of higher inflation, meaning that Powell is going to be more aggressive with his rate hikes. Ultimately, that's what it means, right? But I was looking at this. I was looking at the CME kind of prediction for the next rate hike, which is next week, okay? It's still at nearly 75%. 75% are anticipating that it's going to be 50 basis points. So right now, it seems like it's a lock, okay? And a 50 basis point rate hike is a step in the right direction. It means that the rates are still going up. Fund rate is still going up and could be going up for quite some time, but it's slowing down, right? So that means that the 75 basis point hikes that we have seen before could be behind us, and we see only 50 basis point hikes and 25 basis point hike. Eventually, it stops completely, and then they may have to cut once again. So, I don't know. The economic data that's coming out, some good, some not so good, some inverse. It's like, it's kind of hard to predict at this point, right? It's kind of hard to predict at this point. So just want to lead off with that. Yesterday, the U.S. market actually rallied a bit because we got some bad economic data, meaning that we actually had good numbers. And today we had some bad numbers. So, it's really hard to predict right now. But we don't have to wait much longer. The FOMC meeting will start next week, and we will get another press conference, and we will see what Powell says, not only for December, but what he anticipates in 2023. This will be the last one, of course, before the new year starts. All right, now let's talk about some Tether stuff. Some of you guys have asked me about this, so I'm going to clarify a little bit more. But Coinbase decided yesterday to throw out this whole campaign asking people to switch from Tether to USDC. And they're making it so that you could do so with zero fees, okay? Usually Coinbase charges a fee for every single transaction. That's how they make money. But in terms of converting USDT to USDC, they're saying, we'll allow you to do it absolutely free, okay? Why, though? Why are they doing this? Well, a couple things. Number one is many in this space are fearing about what could happen if Tether collapses. Do they really have enough funds or do they not, right? They had some audits before. The audits were done by some shady companies that are now being investigated. So we don't know if they actually have the funds or the reserves, I should say, to back every single USDT out there. And some would argue that Coinbase is afraid of that and trying to be proactive and trying to get people to rely less on USDT and more on USDC, right? And there's good reason for that line of thinking too, because a lot of you guys do not know the history of Tether. Just recently, okay, this was last year, the New York Attorney General went after Tether because it turns out they had an 850 million hole, okay? You know how like Genesis and others right now, they're trying to patch like $1 billion hole. I'm sorry, not Bitfinex, but Tether. Well, no, it's actually Bitfinex. Bitfinex had an 850 million hole, okay? Bitfinex is the company that issued Tether, and they're all under this bigger company called Ifinex, but they're basically all the same. So they had this 850 million hole because a bank overseas basically locked up their account and they had no access to it. And even to this day, I don't know if they got that back. So New York Attorney General realized, well, this is concerning, right? And how did they patch up that hole? They took a 850 million loan from Tether, okay, which means that basically they use customer assets. I mean, it's essentially the same thing. They needed to plug that hole. They didn't know what to do, so they took an interest-free loan from Tether and just gave it to themselves. And of course, this is a big no-no, right? And New York Attorney General slapped them with a lawsuit, and they eventually settled, and now they're required to report, like, get audited for 3 years or something like that. But still, there's no like major accounting firm that is looking at their reserves. But this happened. But how did they eventually get that 850 million back? You may be wondering, right? Because that's a big hole to patch. You know what they did? They came out with another token, the Leo token. Okay, I don't want to show this. So I was going to say, yes, here we go. They launched another token called Leo. So some of you guys may have seen Leo on CMC. You're like, what is this? It's a private token offering that they sold off, and they made $1 billion, and that's how they were able to plug the 850 million, right? So this was like an IOU token. Basically, hey, you know what? Buy this token, and we'll eventually pay you back, right? It's kind of like that. But you know, this is the playbook that a lot of these other companies are trying to follow. Like when they get in trouble, they're like, let's just come out with another token to try to recoup what we lost, right? Ifinex, Bitfinex, Tether did all this already. They did successfully. I guess they did it early enough where regulators were just really not paying attention. But I mean, this is bad. And even before that, in 2016, Bitfinex suffered a huge hack of 119,000 Bitcoins. 119,000, right? How did they recover the 119,000 Bitcoins back in the day? Well, they created another token called BFX token and recovery rights token. Again, just like Leo, these are IOU tokens, and they said they would go pay people back. And supposedly they did through their profits, whatever. So you can see Ifinex, Bitfinex, they get in a lot of trouble. And what do? They create more tokens to hide their trouble. And their latest creation, besides Leo, is Tether. And they created that right after, a year after, they were hacked. So people are wondering whether or not Tether was just simply created to be a moneymaker for Bitfinex. And some people argue that it was used to manipulate the market. And one of the reasons why we had such a good run in 2017, because of Tether. So you could see that the history of Tether is just really shady, right? Going from Ifinex to Bitfinex to Tether and everything in between, and all the other tokens that were created by these companies, you could see how many people are very fearful. And the story goes even further than that because, well, I'll get to that in a little bit. Okay, so should we be worried about Tether? Why is Coinbase trying to get people to convert, right? Because we just don't know at this point. Right now, it's better to be safe than sorry, and I agree, right? So that's why I think Coinbase is trying to convert everyone from Tether to USDC so that the industry is less reliant on unknown stablecoin, right? Now, that's reason number one. There's also people that think that Coinbase may be in trouble. So why are they trying to get everyone to get into USDC, right? Is it because they need the money? They need the liquidity? There's people saying that right now. But I don't think it's the latter. I don't think it's reason two that Coinbase is desperate for money. That's why they're doing this. I think at this point in time, people are just trying to, or even industry is trying to weed out the bad, kind of like how CZ like weeded out FTX and SBF, kind of like that. It could be one of those moments right now. Also, just to remind you guys that BlackRock did partner up with Coinbase, right, recently. So this is a big thing. And I dug this up. BlackRock and Fidelity both invested in this $400 million funding round just a few months ago, right? So they're really trying to back USDC. So this could also be a reason why there's a big push into USDC. A third reason, and that's because BlackRock and Fidelity want to sow. They trusted more, right? Or they have other plans. So there's that as well. So overall, is Tether in trouble? I would say right now, no. I say right now, they're pretty liquid. But again, we're only speculating. I'm only speculating, right? We just don't know if they truly have $65 billion worth of USD on hand. Before, when they would release their audit reports, it would say that mass majority of that was in junk bonds from corporations and other things that were equivalent to dollars. But recently, they have been saying that they've been converting to dollars, trying to get to that 1-to-1 ratio like they promised, right? Well, we just don't know at this point, so that's why you just got to be careful. But Tether, to give them credit, they withstood some massive withdrawal or redemption periods, could be on purpose to try to depeg the USDT. Okay, we have seen that before, and that also relates to SBF because CZ has come out and said that he believes back earlier this year there was a period where Tether became unpegged to the dollar. It was like 0.996 or something like that, just slightly off. And it takes enormous amount of redemption to cause that to happen, right? So even CZ, there's this like, I guess supposedly there's these internal messages coming out. And CZ is saying that SBF also tried, and they admitted to Binance that they were trying to do this, right? So this whole thing about SBF and FTX, how they were behind Luna's crash and Three Arrows Capital crash and stuff like that, it seemed like they tried to crash Tether on purpose too, to try to, again, arbitrage and make money by getting them to depeg from the dollar, which makes me think that they didn't know that they were going to crash Luna. They knew that they could depeg the UST, but they didn't know how bad it was. And then that inadvertently hurt themselves afterwards, but they probably did it. And now CZ's coming out and saying they probably tried with Tether too and just failed, right? So to give Tether credit, that was a massive amount. I believe there was a time where I read it was like 3 or 4 billion that was redeemed over 24 hours, and they were still able to handle that. So it's going to take a lot more. A massive, massive, massive bank run to really test if Tether has the reserves. But right now, they do seem like they're okay. But as for stablecoins, I do still trust the others better. I still trust USDC better, especially since they're in the U.S., highly regulated, highly looked at, backed by Coinbase and Circle, right? And also, I trust BUSD more because it's basically backed by Binance and Paxos, right? So just be careful about Tether. Be careful about Tether. And for those of you guys that are wondering, what if Tether goes under, right? If Tether goes under, it will be absolutely disastrous. If you thought FTX going under is bad, if Tether goes under, you're going to have dozens upon dozens of exchanges all go belly up overnight. A lot of these exchanges have billions, tens of billions of Tether on their balance sheet in order to offer the trading pairs that they do. And most trading pairs these days are with /USDT. So if Tether somehow goes belly up, the entire industry will be basically nuked by 1,000 atom bombs, and we will be set back a very long time. So let's hope that never happens and people just slowly move out and transition out, right? So There you go. There you go. Now, as for other news, well, speaking of CZ, CZ couldn't hold his tongue anymore. He's generally a nice guy, I would think, but he was so sick of SBF, so he decided to basically declare that SBF was a fraud, right, and sell off. Well, you guys know the story, right? How he wanted to sell off the remaining FTT tokens, and then that led to fear, and then a bank run, and then the whole thing collapsed, and we know the story, right? But CZ is also still very, very, very mad. Like, I covered this last night, and CZ also, he couldn't believe Kevin O'Leary, right? Basically still defending SBF, right? I think this is what most people are mad about. Not only, yes, he was a spokesperson, but he continues to defend SBF. Continues. And CZ goes on and talks about this. And he's also particularly mad about this is because SBF and, to some extent, Kevin O'Leary are pointing fingers at Binance as if they are the evildoers. They're the ones that orchestrated this, and they're the ones that we shouldn't trust, right? So I think that is what's really like irking CZ, because even in that Kevin O'Leary interview, he mentioned Binance several times, right? And then he kind of alluded to the fact that he wanted to be in America, right? That's why he wanted to invest in FTX. But it didn't even make sense because FTX was in the Bahamas. It wasn't even an American company. But he was alluding to that as well. And in this massive tweet, basically CZ was saying, you know what, we try to exit them as fast as we could in 2021. Look at what FTX did in terms of spending money on the Miami Stadium, multiple Super Bowl ads, baseball referees, F1, not to mention their massive political donations and luxury real estate, right? And despite all this, he's saying, Kevin O'Leary, why are you still defending him? And to go on, he talked about how Sam has invested in friends in high places, from media to policymakers to celebrities. And he used those friends in high places to manipulate public opinion, including attacking CZ and others in the industry. Again, attacking how CZ and Binance is a Chinese company, and he is Chinese, and you can't trust him. CZ clarifies he is Canadian, and Binance is not a Chinese company, right? And then he goes on and says FTX is 1/10 our size, but they spent 100x more than what we did on marketing and partnerships, in quotes, meaning friends in high places, and fancy parties in the Bahamas, and traveling across the globe, and mansions for all their senior staff and his parents. I mean, man, CZ did not hold back. Basically, he got really, really ticked off by this interview and just went on and on and on. You know what? And here's the thing. SBF is still claiming that, I mean, he's still trying to make it seem like CZ is like somehow a bad guy or trying to lie or something, because SBF responded saying, you won. There's no need to lie now about the buyout. I don't even know what the buyout is. It almost seems like SBF was claiming that I was trying to buy Binance. That's ridiculous. I think he was talking about the FTT tokens that Binance still had, and he was trying to buy that. And he's like, I was frustrated with your negotiation tactics, but I still chose to do it. You threatened to walk at the last minute if we didn't kick in another $75 million, right? You won. Why are you lying about this? And SBF is like, focus on yourself, right? Don't try to get people to FUD us. So there's a little back and forth there. A little back and forth. But CZ is just really pissed off. I think a lot of people are pissed off. And again, going back to Kevin O'Leary, I think people are just really pissed off at the fact that he's the only one left that is still trying to defend him, saying that we need to get to the bottom of it. Before I condemn the guy, I need to see the books. I need to see this and that. I mean, it's so obvious at this point, right? But all right, so that's the latest. And then also, I did cover this before too, but Alameda supposedly, right, crashed Luna, ITrustCapital, And both CryptosRUs and Luna, their founders, Su, and Do Kwon, are both coming out and saying that FTX was what popped them. Okay? So now they're bringing up the fact that had they not done so, would they still be around, or would they have still popped? That's the question. They both were just too highly leveraged, too risky, right? High flying when things were good. When things were bad, they started coming down. But if it wasn't for SBF and FTX, if it wasn't for them trying to pop it on purpose, would have they popped, or would they be around? And we still have Luna in the top 10 right now. And if we didn't have this whole collapse of Luna and CryptosRUs and Celsius and Voyager and BlockFi and everything else, right, and now FTX, it makes me wonder how high we would be right now. Bitcoin could be at 40,000 right now, right? It just makes me wonder where we would be had the contagion not spread. We'll never know. We'll never know. But SBF is saying he didn't do it. He didn't do it. He didn't do anything. So, but he did agree. He did agree that he's going to be testifying in front of the House committee. Again, I don't think he's flying in. I think he's just doing a Zoom meeting. But I think everyone would prefer if he flies in, because if he does, he'd just go be arrested for questioning. So there's that. And then I think that's it. And then just a few other crypto news. Robert Kiyosaki is still saying, hey, Bitcoin holders, you guys are doing it right. There's going to be a big crash. There's going to be a moment when people just turn away fiat at USD. They're going to look at something better like Bitcoin, and you're all going to get freaking wealthy because of that moment, right? Still waiting for that moment, and I do think it's going to come. You look at, some of the previous bad stuff that has happened. I mentioned Bitfinex. Bitfinex Hack was absolutely huge, but no one remembers it because it was in 2016 during the low, and everyone just remembers 2017. But also, of course, 2 years ago, we did have that COVID crash, right? We recovered from there quite nicely. And now we're facing the FTX crash, and we will get through it, just like previous times. Previous bad actors, previous scary macro stuff, right? We have seen it, and we will get through it. We will get through it. All right, that is, well, I said a lot this morning, right? A lot. U.S. market is still a little red. Bitcoin still doing relatively well, about 17.1, a little bit lower this morning, and that's because of the inflation data. The PPI data in the U.S. came in a little hot. That kind of scared a few people away, but overall, I think next week is a lock, right, with that 50 basis point hike, and we still have 3 weeks left of this year. Can good things happen? Yes. All right, let's do some Q&A. Shannon, that's not a secret. Yeah, yes, that's 100% true. All right, let's scroll up here. Let me make sure. Whole bunch of people watching on Rumble this morning too. Congrats, or not congrats. Welcome everyone. Let's see here. Jacob asking, how do we know we could trust USDC though? Well, that's a good question. I kind of answered that already, right? 100% wise, we don't know. But I would say I trust USDC a lot more than USDT. Based on everything I said about Tether's history and stuff, just don't trust them at all. USDC, at least, was created by Circle and Coinbase, based in the US. Again, if you're a crypto company, especially if you're Coinbase, you're looked at very, very, very closely. Heavily scrutinized, right? So I have a hard time believing that all the agencies that's looking at Coinbase, including the SEC, have not looked at the books of USDC, right? But again, we can't be 100% sure. But I trust the USDC a hell of a lot more than USDT. Is Bitfinex still around? Yes, they are. They are. And back in 2021, there were many periods where the whales still used them to short the market. Coinbase is a public company. You could see exactly what the assets and liability are. Yeah, that's what they're reporting, though, right? But again, a lot of public trade company has reported really good books, and then it turned out they were falsifying data, and then they went under, right? So yes, they're reporting, but can you believe it 100%? Not really. But again, I do trust USDC more than I do USDT. But if you don't trust any stable coins, that's fine. Just keep things in dollars then, right? Most of these exchanges, at least the ones in the US, does allow you to just keep things in cash rather than a stable coin, right? So there is that option. AI Tupac made a BitConnect remix worth the search. Let's see here. Do you think Ripple will lose and BTC will be labeled as security? No. At this point, I don't think anyone is looking to label Bitcoin as a security. And do I think Ripple will lose? No. I do think Ripple has a really good shot. I would say I give them more than 50% chance of winning based on what I know. But again, the SEC, Gary Gensler, if they become too desperate, they could do desperate things. So that could swing things in their favor. And what's considered a desperate thing? To deem Ethereum a security. I think that's the biggest thing that Ripple has. The biggest thing Ripple has is the evidence or the thinking, the testimony from the prior director saying that Ethereum is a commodity because of this, this, and this. And the SEC has been hiding that for a very long time. They have not given that out to anyone. Ripple had to rip that away from them, and judges like forced SEC to give that information up. It shouldn't be that hard. It should be public data. You know, I don't know why that could be hidden, but the fact that Ripple has that, they know exactly what to do. But the thing is, like I said, if Gary gets really, really desperate, I think his final move is to deem Ethereum as security, and then that playbook just goes away. Mars, I started to rebuild and put my coins on Binance US staking. Do you think it's a safe place? I think as safe as it can be. Binance US is a separate entity from Binance.com, but knowing, not that I'm like best friends with CZ, right? But just seeing what he has done since 2017, because Binance was a relatively new exchange. Came out late 2017, and I've been following his moves, tracking his movements, and how he's been operating, and it just seems like he knows what he's doing. It just seems like he's just very careful, calculated guy, someone that was a Bitcoin maxi, someone that sold off all of his possessions and bought Bitcoin back in, I think, 2014, 2015, right? Someone that truly believes in crypto. You know, he just seems like he's a capable leader. So he's just the anti-SBF. He didn't, you know, I even questioned this when everyone was doing good, right? and you saw like Crypto.com and FTX and everyone else, even Coinbase, throwing big money out there with Super Bowl ads, right? Arena rights and esport teams and all these things, right? They were spending money on. Binance didn't spend money on anything, really. They were hoarding the cash for a raining day, and that's why in 2021, I believe Binance is the only exchange that didn't lay anyone off. Coinbase, Kraken, Robinhood, Crypto.com, like every single crypto company laid off 10, 20, 30% of their staff. Binance is the only one I didn't hear that they had layoffs, right? So they were saving all that money for a rainy day. So again, these kind of stuff, right, makes me trust Binance just way more than everyone else. Is Sol going to implode? Well, a lot of finger pointing, right? Let's just say this. Sol is an easy target right now. Solana is an easy target because of FTX, because how much Alameda holds still, and this close connection between SBF and Solana. If you look up the history of Solana, I've covered this before, I think early 2021 when they were rising up. Solana was basically dead in the water until SBF told everyone that he was going to prop up Solana no matter what. And that's because Solana had a huge unlock where all the VCs could have dumped, and they did. And SBF just said, I don't care. I'm going to save them no matter what. And he bought up everything. That is the reason why Solana arguably survived and became one of the powerhouses of 2021. So there is definitely a close connection. But with that said, Solana is bigger than SBF now. They have a big ecosystem, especially with NFTs. They're doing quite well. They have DeFi, and they have several projects that's building on top of Solana. But, I do think they lost a whole lot of strength and a lot of distrust. They still have their own issues they have to figure out with their network outages, which Anatoly said he's working on, right? So I still give him a shot to recover. It's just that it may be slower. Hey, I just noticed something happened with Cardano's logo. Oh, there we go. Okay. So there you go. If we have another bull run in 2 to 3 years, do you think we would have another 80% dump again? Yeah. I think it's likely. This time our drawdown is about 70%, so not even fully 80%. But, if the cycle continues and we have the same kind of movement where we have an 80% drawdown and then we have an exponential run after that, and then we have an 80% drawdown, it could keep going. But I think the effect will diminish over time as more and more people come into the space and as more holders are holding, right? Which is why we make higher lows and way higher highs, right? And the drawdowns are usually less impactful. But this one proves once and for all, because the biggest question about Bitcoin before was, can Bitcoin survive a recession? Okay? Bitcoin has never been through a recession, and it's going through one right now. Okay? And even though, yes, we have come down like 70%, but Bitcoin is still holding at 17,000 versus what was the low in 2018? Not too far ago. And even the low of 2020, we were below 4,000. Bitcoin had 3,000, right? So despite the fact that we are in one of the weirdest and longest periods for a drawdown for Bitcoin, and we are in a recession, and it could get worse, I would say Bitcoin is showing that it can withstand. And just wait until the next run, the next cycle, where Bitcoin ends up and where it comes down to will be way, way higher than where we are now. So Step, I don't know how to answer you. If you completely trust Coinbase, good for you. Good for you. I would say trust no one. Just trust in yourself, right? So if you're scared, self-custody your own crypto. Jeff, appreciate it. What happens to USDT pairs? You know, Coinbase didn't add USDT, I believe, until 2021. They never had USDT, right? But now they're proactive, trying to get everyone off. They can't just say they're shutting it down. They could, but there's just too many people that hold USDT at this point. So I think they're just trying to get people off the dependence of USDT at this point, right? You could argue maybe BlackRock has something to do with it too, because BlackRock is a big investor in Circle and in Coinbase. So there's that. But, you know, it could also just because this is a good move for them, because they just want people to switch over. But just look at the history of Tether, right? They did exactly what they should not have done. They were able to get away with it, and yes, I just, that's why I've always said I don't trust Tether, I don't trust Ifinex, I don't trust Bitfinex. Everything they have done, just really, really shady. JD Club, you have to go into advanced trade. I think that's where you go see it. You're not going to see it on just regular Coinbase. You have to turn on that advanced trade, which used to be like Coinbase Pro, right? That's where you could see all the pairs. But like in regular Coinbase, you're just not going to see much. As for Bitcoin right now, still holding steady, 17.1, 17.2. Entire market cap is still up about 1.4%. That's good. The U.S. market came down a little bit, but hey, it's recovering. You know, people know that the 75 basis points will be decreased to 50 basis points, and maybe Powell becomes even more dovish, you know. But things are looking better today. Someone on Eris Fox, what are your thoughts on Litecoin right now? I still say, if you're looking for store value, go with Bitcoin. That's it. There's nothing that makes me like Litecoin better than Bitcoin. So it's easy as that. Someone else asked about Gemini. Well, Gemini took a black eye because of their connection with Genesis, and Genesis was offering Gemini Earn, and now they froze the withdrawals, and they're $1 billion in the hole, right? But Gemini themselves seems to be okay. They didn't participate in lending. They let Genesis do that. All the companies that collapsed so far in the U.S. has been ones that participate in lending. It didn't seem like Gemini did so, unless they lent out to Genesis or someone else that we don't know about. But right now, Gemini still looks pretty safe. Also very highly regulated in the U.S. They attained all the bit licenses that Coinbase did, and that's not easy to do in the U.S. Several states are nearly impossible to get a bit license, and they have achieved it. So I would say Gemini is still pretty safe up to this point, but still they took a shot. They got a black eye because of this connection to Genesis. TGIF, I agree with that. I do agree with that. Sam, I don't know. I don't know what to do with that channel. I had this idea of doing buying storage auctions, right? Or bidding on storage auctions and see what I collect. But recently I have not seen any good ones, so I don't know if I'm going to do anything there. Maybe. I don't know at this point. Serge says, Michael Saylor making crypto look bad. He's becoming more and more of a Bitcoin maxi, right? That's what Bitcoin maxis do. I think him and others feel compelled that they have to attack others to make Bitcoin look good, and I just feel like there's no need for that. There's no need to make Bitcoin look good. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. There's nothing going to beat Bitcoin. Bitcoin is store value, right? So I just feel like a lot of people attack on Ethereum and attack on Cardano or Solana and attack on this and that to try to make Bitcoin look good. But there's absolutely no need to. And by even doing so makes them look more desperate. So that's the thing. Bitcoin is Bitcoin. There's no need to save it. There's no need to attack others to make it look good. There's nothing that competes with Bitcoin. Nothing. Bitcoin is the big dog. It'll always be the big dog. And everything else is separate. Everything else is not a store of value. It's not a hedge against inflation. Everything else doesn't have a set supply or an inflation cut every 4 years, right? Those are inherent qualities of Bitcoin that will keep it going higher. Everything else is more a technology. It's more like Web 3.0 companies of the future. Two different things. Very, very different things. It would be equivalent of gold bugs attacking Apple and Amazon back in 2000, right? Like, it's the two things don't even compete, and it makes no sense. Nick, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Just ordered another ledger, but which exchange would you use that is more decentralized? I want to move from Coinbase and others looking at KuCoin. What are your thoughts? No centralized exchange, Eris Fox, is decentralized in any way. They're all centralized, right? But if you're asking which one should you trust more, well, I would say if you're in the U.S., Coinbase is still the most trustworthy. But I would say Binance.US is up there. Gemini is up there. I'd say Kraken is up there. Several choices. Overseas, there's some big ones. I like KuCoin. I think they're trustworthy, but they start limiting U.S. customers, right? So you have to watch out. There's several others out there that are pretty good, but you know what? You could always rely on swaps. You could also swap on DEXs, right? Then you're in full control. Kyra, I get asked about ICP all the time. I'm just not a fan of ICP. Never have been. Ivan said it best. Yes, let's pray that Tether never goes under. Let's pray that crypto becomes stronger, not weaker, and roots out or weeds out the bad actors. Yes, that's exactly what we should hope for, right? We hope Tether never goes under. Not while they claim they're holding 60+ billion. There's so many exchanges that would be wiped out immediately if that happens. So the best case scenario is everyone recognizes how shady they are. They voluntarily move away into stablecoins or cash or just crypto in general, right? And they slowly die off that way. But yeah, and it's also good not to finger point and attack, but to build and and help each other in this time. Step says Crypto.com is super shady. I don't know if they're super shady, but people don't realize Crypto.com didn't start out as Crypto.com or exchange. They started out as a company called Monaco, which was actually in competition with two other companies on debit credit cards. Debit crypto cards. And they're the only ones that survived. I remember the other two, Centra, and there was one other one. They all turned out to be rug pull projects, scam projects. And then Monaco spent some money to buy Crypto.com name, the domain name. They rebrand themselves, then came out with or expanded upon their exchange. And then they came out with their chain, the Chronos chain and stuff like that. So they had an interesting journey. I wouldn't say they're a scam, but I think they, like many others, decided to spend a lot of money in 2021, and they're probably regretting doing so. I mean, that Lakers stadium rights, that was insane how much they put up. I forgot the exact number, but it was like 10 years, 800 million or something like that. It was insane to get the naming rights to Staples Center. Am I buying stocks right now or only crypto? I don't buy any stocks really, but I do keep track. I try to keep track of a few. Hey, EOS is actually coming up. I'm still waiting for EOS to rebrand to, I think, Antelope, which is one of the worst names I've ever heard, but they're trying to break away from Block 1, so that's a good thing. The graph having a decent day today. What is Tesla at today? Oh, Tesla finally agreed. Yeah. Tesla has been absolutely decimated for a long, long, long time. Dragon. I've been in crypto since 2009. I've been there when BTC was released. I even bought 20 bucks worth, which is 6,000 Bitcoins back in 2010. Now estimated around 27 million, which I lost. Broken hard drive. Wow. Wow, that's quite a story. I didn't get in that early. I got in 2013 when things were already really high at 1,000. But, man, I guess you live and you learn, right? And you continue forward. But that's a lot of Bitcoin right there, 6,000 plus. Hey, did you even keep the hard drive? You know, maybe they could recover it these days. I'm pretty sure you probably threw out that hard drive. But if you still have it, you know, the way they could recover data nowadays probably a lot better than before. Quantum computing will release all lost coins on cold wallets as they update. No, I don't think so. Quantum computing, first of all, I think a lot of people don't understand that quantum computing, if it achieves a level that you're saying, that it could actually break through, like, say, SHA-256 encryption and break through any kind of encryption out there, well, it would be the end of the world. You can crack any financial institution. You could crack the Federal Reserve. You could crack nuclear codes. You could crack anything, okay? So having people crack your wallet is the last thing that they're going to worry. they're going to work on. they're going to crack a lot more things. So, and who knows, by then, if quantum computers get that good, we can have quantum computers that's protecting the hacks from happening. You know, the anti whatever systems, right? Also powered by quantum computing. But we're just not there yet, and we're nowhere close to that. All right. Super. Thank you. A roulette wheel. Thank you. I got what? Jamie says something about Brazil sweepstakes, something like that. Splish Splash. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, quantum resistance. Yeah, something like that. All right, guys. I think it's time to conclude today's Friday. So I'm not going to be streaming tonight, but I will be streaming again tomorrow. You know what? I might try 10:30 tomorrow. 10:30 a.m. tomorrow, since there's no market open. But, you know, overall, this whole thing about Tether, I think it's warranted. I think a lot of people are fearful of Tether. And it's warranted because of their shady past. So if you didn't watch it, rewind to the beginning and do your own research. This whole thing from Ifinex, Bitfinex, Tether, not good, right? So Coinbase, there's a number of reasons why they want people to switch. One, it could be they just want people to be less dependent of it. Two, for their own self-interest. Or three, because they're desperate for money. I'd say it's probably number two, hopefully not number three. But regardless what the reason is, I think Tether should not be trusted. USDC or BUSD are definitely better options. And if you don't trust any stablecoins, then simply switch to fiat, which is, of course, another option, right? But, yeah, there's just a lot going on, guys. CZ also, again, fighting back. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes. But right now, U.S. markets are turning around. Bitcoin is holding. Crypto overall is still up. So stay strong, my friends. Stay strong. Enjoy your Friday. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Have a good one, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
What do you think about Ripple?
Well, I mean, I think it's too centralized, but I definitely want to meet Chris Larson.